All right, everyone, remember how 5 years ago Salon declared Venezuela the golden standard of socialism? And it sort of held it up on a pedestal and said, this is real socialism. See, because it was, the economy was going well there and things were expanding, quality of life was rising, infant mortality was down, the country's economy was booming. Then it was real socialism. But the second that they started to falter, it stopped being socialism anymore. They no longer talk about Venezuela. But gun-free, largely, except for the state militias and the military, largely gun-free socialist paradise. Somehow it's the world's most violent country. I wonder how it possibly happened. Now, I know, if you ask someone who's like, a Walmart Marxist, they wear the Marx shirt and it was made by like child labor in a hyper-capitalist economy or something. If you ask them, they'll say, oh, well, it's like a CIA coup attempt. Basically, the U.S. is putting pressure on Venezuela. They got the CIAs in there trying to rabble-rouse. Everyone actually likes Maduro, like his approval's at 90% or something, but, they constantly orchestrate violence. These evil capitalist guerrillas are the ones causing it. In reality, it's the result of Chavez's shitty planning, essentially planned economy, completely reliant upon something that is now worth peanuts compared to what it used to be. And just think, Venezuela's economy is still in the shitter, despite the fact that oil prices have been creeping upwards. They got to do a lot more creeping. It'll be several more years. Europe just threw them, I think, $49 million to keep functioning, so that hopefully they could figure something out. We should be leaning on Europe not to do that. We don't need to sanction or anything. I think we should lift all sanctions on Venezuela too, by the way. We shouldn't even bother. We should take a total hands-off approach. That way Maduro can't complain about the great Satan USA causing all of his problems. In reality, the person he should be blaming is Hugo Chavez. Chavez is the one that designed that economy that way in the first place. Thinking, oh, oil prices, they'll probably just rise from here anyway. He believed the peak oil bullshit of the Jimmy Carterites and others. Oh, we're getting near peak oil. Oh God, we're going to run out. So Venezuela's like, haha, well, we have the largest supply, so we'll just keep pumping this shitty crude out of the ground, or in some cases out of that giant lake or brackish bay or whatever the fuck it is. I don't even know. Maracaibo, I think it's called. And we'll just keep pumping it, and we'll be able to. We don't need any other exports. Crops, who fucking needs that? We can buy all the food we want. We'll just import food. We don't need farming. Oh, water, yeah, that'll never be a problem. And, not too much, but desalination plant for irrigation, no, we're not going to invest in any big projects like that. Like, we're just going to give people fucking toaster ovens. People want dishwashers. People want, clothes and commie block apartments. And some of those places don't even have running water or plumbing. They don't even have electricity. They're like literally shell apartments. You just sort of sit there and I guess you have a roof over your head, until it collapses because it was made in a shoddy manner. This is the result of actual socialism. Look, people who lived under the Soviet Union, under the socialist centrally planned system they're like, no, you don't want to be socialist. I think we should listen to people, generally, who have actually experienced things. So when the overwhelming majority of people in Eastern Europe who are behind the Iron Curtain say, fuck commies, fuck socialism, I tend to take them at their word because they know how it's actually like. You have a younger generation in Eastern Europe that thankfully is being saved by a latent nativist sentiment from regressing into socialism, just like the Western Europeans, I think. They've been saved for an extra generation or two. I think it's a good thing. But, this is a country, Venezuela. Strict gun control. You can't really, they just confiscated basically all the bullets and guns from everyone who's not a member of the state guerrilla movements. Maduro activated them to help provide security because the troops could no longer maintain order. So, now they got some tens of thousands of literal socialist fighters that are sort of running around and, randomly killing people. And then they blame it on, like the protesters. The protesters killed him. It wasn't one of these, basically assassins that Maduro pays for and supplies with weaponry. They've got very few guns, and yet it's incredibly violent. I don't know. I thought gun control was supposed to work and shit. And socialism was supposed to make people equal and wealthy. Yet Maduro sits there smoking his like $100 import cigars while people have to say, today, am I going to eat or will my kid eat? Or maybe I can feed the dog. Maybe I should just kill and eat the dog. That's basically Venezuela in a nutshell at the moment. And that's real socialism. Look, I'm going to trust Salon when they said 5 years ago that that was the case. Oh, this is an example of real, honest-to-goodness, workers' paradise fucking socialism. That's what they declared it to be openly at the time. Bernie Sanders, like, oh yeah, we should be more like Venezuela. I don't think that he's saying that now. I wonder why. Why? Why all of a sudden are they talking about the Norwegians or Sweden or something? Could it be because those are economies that have yet to collapse because of overburdensome centrality? No, here's the real thing. The real thing is this. The only reason that you can even talk about wanting to implement socialism is because of wealth accumulated by private marketplace, by free trade, and by the ability of people to produce. Literally by capitalism. Now, we in the United States, our economy has problems not because of too much capitalism, but because we've been steadily moving towards more socialism. That's why our economy has problems with not growing as fast. Look, the Chinese took a giant chunk of their economy, made it virtual pure capitalism, and said basically there's no restrictions. Environmental controls, what the fuck, who cares? Workers' rights, what are those? Infrastructure, privatize it, build whatever the fuck you want. Look, here's some land, we're granting it to you, do whatever the fuck you want. Just make money. That's what China did. That segment of their economy is exploding with growth still. You know what's dragging them down and slowly grinding them? The centralized part of their economy that's run by the government. The programmed part of their economy, the average return is less than $1 on the dollar. And the private segment of their economy, they get a return. Far fewer projects fail, far more of them succeed very well, to the point where now they have to export that true capitalism to East Africa to keep making goods in order to sell to us as middlemen. China's no longer an exporter, it's a middleman economy. It's an industrial economy, yeah. Swiftly, they're starting to move away from that. By the way, it's going to cause major pains, I think, for the next Chinese generation. Socialism is bullshit, basically. You know, a very small amount of socialism goes a long way. The problem is when people say, well, this social program worked, it alleviated, it took care of some orphans, or, the poor now have breadlines or something. Then they say, well, if a little is good, then a lot must be even better. That's the problem of socialism. People automatically begin voting themselves more of others' money because typically, it's easy for some leftists to say, oh, you're in the bottom 75%, vote for us, we'll give you more welfare. Ultimately, though, eventually you fuck up your own economy and the poor get way poorer, as we see with Venezuela. Especially when things are centralized. Look, we've got enough problems with that in our own country. We need to move away from centralization. We need to give as much power back to the states and local governments, or to people in general outside of government, privatizing things or whatever. We need to do as much of that as possible to safeguard our own economic situation. We can safeguard ourselves for another couple centuries and be on top of the world and be the top economy forever, but we've got to make sure to get rid of as much government and bureaucracy and socialism as possible. And as for being safe, obviously, you look at the UK. It's an exercise in reality for monarchists. It's an exercise in understanding our basic point here when you look at the UK. They gave up their guns and now they've given up because they're not armed, because they can't fight back against a tyrannical government. They are now losing their right to protest. They're losing their right to access information. They're losing their right to produce information, the rights of the press. They've lost their free speech. There you go. That's what happens when you give up your guns. So yeah, gun control is evil. Venezuela has a lot of it, doesn't seem to work too well. Gun control to them means, hey, I, Maduro, control the guns. Which means that I can kill people at a whim if they step out of line. Oh, this kid throwing rocks, blow him away. All these people raided the government store because there's no other food in the fucking city. Gun them down. Massacre those people because they're holding up a picture of me in an unflattering manner. No, just kill them. It's not like they're worth anything. They're peasants. They're subjects. That's what you are. If you don't have the government, it was funny. Other day, in closing here, I'll say this before I get on too much of a red-faced rant, start looking like Howard Dean, I guess. It was funny because somebody had a thread in 4chan. They're like, oh, why does your government allow you to have guns? And I'm like, allow? Haha, that's exactly the point. You don't need to be allowed. Then it's not liberty. Then it's a privilege if you're allowed to do something. If you simply have enumerated this as a natural right, hands off, then it's truly a right. Then you're a citizen. Otherwise, you're just a slave. You're at the whim of tyrants. That's about all. Peace out.